Hi there, this is Eshu. I'm the abbot here at Zenwest Buddhist Society. This Living Zen-podcast is just one of the many resources we've created at Zenwest to make Zen practice and training more available and accessible to people all over the world. Instructional videos, printable resources, and much, much more are also available on our website at www.zenwest.ca. If you're a regular listener, I'd love to hear from you. So please drop me an email at office@zenwest.ca and let me know who you are, how you got started, and what brought you to Zen. Everything we make available in person and online at Zenwest is only possible because of the support of our members and associates, people like you. If the efforts of our community are making a difference in your life, I'd like to invite you to show your support and take part in making it happen by becoming an associate or member of the Zenwest Sangha. You can do this by clicking the Join Us tab on our website at www.zenwest.ca. Thank you for your support, and thanks for listening.
My thanks to Venerable Eshu Osho for inviting me to give a talk tonight. Welcome to whoever's coming in behind me. I've only got 15 minutes, so. I thought I'd talk tonight about power, as it's something that's been very much on my mind. I know a number of you were here on Saturday and witnessed Eshu's Osho ceremony, in which he was empowered to be a temple priest, which is in a way very comical because he's been acting as the spiritual leader of this community for many years. But in a way is also very significant, and that is a formal recognition of his role here, as well as a formal sign of power or of authority. And, I was here, I contributed and participated in the ceremony and feel very honored to be part of it and very much in support of it. It's definitely got me thinking. As I think about power, one thing that's clear is power exists. Different powers exist. That is to say, there's a difference between a cool summer breeze and a tornado. One is more powerful than the other. There's a difference between Old Yeller and Mount St. Helens eruption. One is distinctly more powerful than the other. And we shouldn't, I shouldn't pretend or wish that was not true. First of all, it is true, and wishing it was not true won't help us any. But second of all, power, when, what's the right way to say it? When used skillfully or when harnessed successfully, power it's not just good, it's essential. It is what makes the world go round. So, rather than wishing it would go away, which I certainly have gotten into the trap of, sort of having an egalitarian view, wishing everybody was equal in terms of power, it's, I think, important to recognize that that's just not true. Some people are more powerful than others. And the question is not how do we make that go away, but how do we navigate that, or how do we deal with that skillfully? How do we, as both people of power and we as people under power or less powerful, navigate our relationships? There's, we all know in Shakespeare, I imagine most of us know that in Shakespeare he talks about all the world's a stage. And one way of understanding that is this is all a big game or a big play. And as Shakespeare says, it signifies nothing. As in, there's no deeper meaning other than a given part in any given moment. I'm sitting here talking to you, or we're sitting doing Zazen together, or we're teaching a class, or guiding our child. And sometimes we like to think that there's some deeper meaning or there's something bigger going on. But one way of looking at things is actually we're all just playing these parts, and it's not about anything bigger than the part itself. So whether or not we have power is a little bit like whether or not we sort of got a particular script when they were handing out the scripts when we came into this particular play. Right? It's not as if we are intrinsically more or less powerful, but more that we were handed a particular role, and it's our job to learn how to play that particular role. Some people, let's face it, are just more powerful than others. They have more charisma. They have more physical strength. They have more intelligence. They have more wisdom. They have more beauty. All these things give one power. Add a number of those together, you get somebody with a lot of power. And is this intrinsically a problem? No, of course not. Some of the greatest beacons to us as human beings were incredibly powerful individuals. There's a wonderful story that repeats, and as far as I can tell, all the mythologies, I'm not a Joseph Campbell expert, but as far as I can tell, all the mythologies in, if not all cultures, many cultures, which is of a royal or prince or princess being separated from his or her family at birth or very young and being raised by peasants. And growing up as a peasant, thinking that they're a peasant, not knowing their quote-unquote true place. And of course, these stories go lots of different ways, but always there's a moment when the child comes to the truth that they are actually royalty. And they're asked to wrestle with, struggle with, and eventually own or integrate their quote-unquote true place place. And this is such an important metaphor for us. What this tells us is that no matter what we think of ourselves, we have the seeds or the latent potential to be royalty in the sense of to be powerful or to be within the circle of whatever we think of as best or royal or highest. Whatever we hold up in our own minds as the best, we have within ourselves that, and we belong there. Sort of, if only we could recognize that and integrate that. And as far as I can tell, one of the most useful things that a person of power can do is to call us or invite us into that sphere or into that place of our own power. So I'm here supporting Eshu and participating in his Osho ceremony and encouraging him very much because I feel like Eshu understands this dynamic in which the more power we have, the more it's our job to invite others into their own power. Sometimes this looks like a challenge. Sometimes this looks like a direct face-to-face confrontation. Sometimes that's what it takes for a person to really step into their own power. One in power has to stand in front of them and say, barrier. And that person has to step through that barrier. Eshu and I both train with Zen teacher Genjo Marinello, who is here on Saturday. And in the course of training, you go into a room called the Dokusan room, where you have a one-on-one, fairly intense, often intense conversation with the teacher. And you go in there and you do 3 bows, and it's a pretty intense environment. And the Genjo has calligraphy hanging right in front of right as you enter the entranceway and you do your first bow. There's a big calligraphy hanging. And the calligraphy is just a single character, kan, barrier. The idea is that every time you go to Dokusan, you're asked to step through that barrier between yourself and this master, this Zen master. The work of Zen, if it's done skillfully, says I, is to invite the student to break the barrier between the master and the quote-unquote disciple or student. And all of the power that the student has projected on the teacher must eventually be integrated into the student. And the teacher's job, and I feel very strongly about this, the teacher's job is to use whatever skillful means they can to invite or to encourage or to support the student's empowerment. Sadly, that doesn't always happen. We know the phrase, power corrupts. And we've seen so many people of power, politicians, rock stars, spiritual leaders, doctors, lawyers, judges, so many people of power misuse and abuse their power for their own gain. And if we look into our hearts, we recognize, let me speak for myself, when I look into my heart, I recognize how easy it would be for me to do the same thing. How easy it would be for me to take advantage of power and start to use it to get what I want. So, power in a way is a lot like fire. It has a lot of potential and it can do a lot of harm, and we should know when we're playing with it. So part of the reason I'm talking about this now at the first talk after Eshu's big ceremony is just to say, hey everybody, Eshu just got a whole new outfit and a whole new set of robes and a whole new title, and he, whether you know it or not, whether you recognize it or not, he actually got a whole lot of power on Saturday. Hey everybody, we're playing with fire. Watch out. I don't think Eshu's dangerous. In fact, I love and trust him deeply. But watch out. Fire can get away from us. And that doesn't mean watch out like Eshu might do something wrong. I mean, he might, but it's not limited to that. We have to watch out ourselves for how we react and play with that fire, how we hold the people who have power, quote unquote, over us. What stories do we tell about somebody with a brown or a beige or a gold raksu or robe? What kind of pedestal do we put them on? How does that serve? I'm not saying not to respect and love and cherish and even bow to people in power. But I'm saying watch out. Pay attention. Are you seeing clearly when you bow? Do you know what you're bowing to? Are you bowing to the robe? That's just a piece of fabric. Are you bowing because he had a ceremony? That's just a bunch of people walking around offering incense and yabbering. What are you bowing to? Now, knowing Eshu, I hope that you're bowing to his dignity and his determination, his honesty, his persistence, his clarity, his courage, his warmth. These are things we should be bowing to in him and in others, and definitely in ourselves. And hopefully, if our spiritual leader inspires us to become more powerful in these ways, then we should follow them and bow to them. But we should not get confused about what we're bowing to, what we're giving power to. Sadly, and this is truly sad, if we get confused about the power our teacher holds over us, it creates the best conditions for them to get confused. If we lose sight of what it is about this normal human being that inspires us, and we start bowing to the robe or the title or even just the physical grace, and if we start to play the "you're better than me" game, sadly, it increases the likelihood tenfold, 100-fold, that they'll start believing that. A cool summer breeze and a tornado are both just wind. Different quantities of wind, but if you were able to pan back from a tornado far enough, you'd see that that tornado was actually connected to every cool breeze that was happening on the planet. It's all one body of air. Eshu may have a different color raksu or a different set of clothes than we do, or a different title. But he's just a person, animated by the same life force that we are. And we need to hold these two truths in balance. We need to know what we're bowing to, and remember that at the end of the day, ultimately, whatever we see in Eshu can only be a reflection of what is within us. And whatever we aspire to, it is our job to manifest. And that is in our power. Hi.
Thanks for listening to the Living Zen podcast. If you follow Living Zen through iTunes, I would very much appreciate it if you would take a moment to let me know what you think about it by rating or reviewing the podcast, so that new listeners can also hear what you have to say. Thank you for your time and for your support.